Welcome back to today's video. In today's video, I'm taking a look here at a Donald Trump and Joe Biden election rematch for the 2024 election. And this will be based strictly off of polling data and polling data in reference to the swing states and in reference to the issues that Americans feel are most important. Let's get into today's video. All right, welcome back here to today's video. In today's video, I'm taking a look here at the particular swing states: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Now, I have not included Virginia and Minnesota, which I have included in previous videos, although for this video, I will not be including those particular states. Taking a look here at some general election polling data, we see here that in the general election polling data, it is relatively tight. Donald Trump is leading by 2 points, and Joe Biden is leading by 2 points in another poll. Taking a look here in another poll, Trump's leading by 2 points, and Trump is leading by 21 points in the state of Indiana, but we will skip that poll. Biden is leading by 1 point in this particular poll as well, and then we have some of the particular swing states. But generally speaking, with regards to the general election, I would say that Trump's leading by maybe 1 point or 2 points. If you factor in more polls, Trump is probably leading by 1 or 2 points, although not by a very large margin. The real question is, how much is Trump leading in the swing states? And in the swing states here, we see that Trump is leading in the state of Michigan by a relatively large margin. Now, these polls are from 538. Now I did use 538 for a previous prediction, which I did. I did use 538 in which I used their polling data in the state of Michigan. Now, interesting thing that's going on now is that 538 is actually being more pro-Trump in terms of their polling data than Real Clear Politics. So Real Clear Politics is actually being more pro-Biden than 538, whereas in previous elections, specifically the 2020 election or maybe even the 2016 election, Real Clear Politics was being extensively pro-Trump, whereas in this election, it seems like most of their polls are being pro-Biden, which I don't know if they're intentionally doing that, but that's what at least seems like is happening. But I did a previous video basing off everything based off of Real Clear Politics, although for this video, I will be basing everything off of 538. So 538 here, Trump's leading by relatively large margins. Now, you do see the Biden's leading by 9 points in this particular poll. This is a Haley matchup, which will not happen. Haley has already suspended her campaign, in case you haven't heard about that. That is pretty old news at this point, but Haley has suspended her campaign. She is evening up with Trump in one poll, although in all other polls, Trump does seem to be leading by relatively large margins. Moving on here in the state of Nevada, Trump again is leading by a relatively large margin. Skip the poll at the very top. This is a Trump versus Newsom poll, so we will skip that poll at the very top. We will skip the poll right over here, which shows a Harris matchup. And in all the other polls, we do see that Trump is leading Biden by relatively large margins, 10 points, 6 points, 6 points, 7 points, continuing. So those are some of the polls there in the state of Nevada. In the state of Georgia here, we see here that Trump is leading by large margins as well. You see that one poll Biden is leading. That poll is actually a Haley matchup, so ignore that poll over there. But we do see here that Trump is leading in several of the polls. This poll right over here shows a Newsom matchup, which we will ignore as well. But in all the polls, Trump's leading by around 5 to 10 points, which are relatively large margins for him to lead in the 2024 race. In the state of Wisconsin, Trump is leading by 9 points, 3 points, 4 points, and the polls basically continue with that particular margin. Now, Biden does end up evening up Trump in one poll and evening up with Trump in another poll. The poll which shows Biden ahead by 9 points is once again a Haley matchup. So as you can see, Trump is leading Biden by relatively large margins. Also, the poll right over here, which shows Haley leading by 15 points to 16 points, is with regards to a Haley matchup, not a Trump matchup. In the state of Pennsylvania, Biden's leading by 20 points in one poll. Now, this is a Haley matchup again. Although Biden's leading by 1 point against Trump in one poll, so that is pretty good for him. Trump's leading in all the other polls, and then Biden's leading by 5 points and 1 point. Now, I will say that Pennsylvania is the best state for Biden to flip in 2024, at least based off of polling data. Pennsylvania is a state which Biden's currently leading. According to Real Clear Politics, he was leading a while ago by 1.2%. I'm not sure now. He was leading by 1.2% to around 0.8%, according to Real Clear Politics. Now it may have changed a little bit, but even in 538, you are seeing that Biden is doing better in some polls. So if Biden really wants to flip a state, it is going to be the state of Pennsylvania. In the state of Arizona, Trump's leading in basically every single poll. Even in the five-way races, Trump's leading by large margins as well. In fact, when you factor in all 5 candidates, we do see that Trump's actually leading by greater margins than Joe Biden is actually leading by. So that will be a factor to consider. He's leading by 9 points in this poll, whereas in the majority of the polls, he's leading by under 9 points when you factor in a 5-way race. In this poll, Trump's leading by 6 points, which is revealing, I think, that third or fourth, fifth party candidates won't really have a big influence on the election. I do think that it's generally speaking going to help Trump. I do think that RFK is going to hurt Trump by a relatively large margin. I do think that a lot of Trump supporters or individuals who may have voted for Trump in the 2020 election will go ahead and vote for RFK. And I think very little Biden supporters will end up voting for RFK. They might, although based off of what I've seen, even on the internet, I do see that a lot of individuals who are Trump supporters who may have voted for Trump in the 2020 election are more adept to voting for RFK in the 2024 election. Now let's take a look here on the different issues that Americans have. So, what is the most important issue facing this country today? What's the most important problem facing this country today? Now, this is Gallup polling, and you can debate how accurate Gallup polling is. But currently in February 2024, which as the time we're making this video, we are in March 9th. So it is a little bit later. But immigration does seem to be a hotspot for most Americans. Most Americans say immigration is at 28%, followed by government, economy in general, inflation, poverty, hunger, homelessness, unifying the country, race relations, racism. Race relations and racism is down at 4%. Federal budget deficit is 3%. Crime and violence is at 3%. Election reform, democracy is at 3%. Now that is important to note. Election reform and democracy is at 3%. Now, Joe Biden is running on a lot of that in the campaign. So he's only 3% of Americans think that's the most important issue, whereas on immigration and government and economy and inflation, that seems to be the most important issue. So again, it's showing how Joe Biden running on democracy might not be able to win in the campaign for the 2024 election. Healthcare is, I don't believe healthcare. Yeah, healthcare is at 3%, which is not very high whatsoever. Ethical, moral, religious decline is at 3%. All right. Now, who do Americans trust on these particular issues? Now, on the environment, Joe Biden beats Trump by 9 points. On education, Joe Biden beats Trump by 6 points. On healthcare, Joe Biden beats Trump by 5 points. Now, generally speaking, for a Republican candidate, that is relatively good. But Joe Biden to be beating Trump by only 9% on the environment is pretty good. I mean, Trump, I believe he said that he doesn't even believe climate change exists. So for Trump to be only behind of Joe Biden by 9 points is relatively good for him. On education, Joe Biden's only leading Trump by 6 points, which again is pretty good for a Republican candidate. On healthcare, Biden's only leading Trump by 5 points, which is very interesting since about 60% of Americans approve of the Affordable Care Act currently. And Trump has said that he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which is very interesting that he's very ahead in those polls. On LGBTQ plus issues, again, Trump polls relatively good. He's polling at 27% compared to Joe Biden polling at 38%. If you had a Ron DeSantis or somebody like that polling against Joe Biden, this would definitely be much, much lower. On the issue of abortion, now this is extremely important because on the issue of abortion, most Americans support what Joe Biden supports, right? Although when you look at most of the polling data, Trump's only 4 points behind of Joe Biden on the issue of abortion, which is why I think that abortion will not be a key issue in the 2024 election. I don't try to underestimate it. I do think that it's going to be an important issue, although I do think that it's going to be an important issue. On the issue of Ukraine, Trump's leading Biden by approximately 6 points. On foreign policy, Trump's beating Biden by 7 points. On the economy, Trump's beating Biden by 13 points. On crime, Trump's beating Biden by, I believe, 8 points. And then taxes, Trump's beating Biden by 8 points. On inflation, Trump's beating Biden by 11 points. Guns, Trump's beating Biden by 10 points. Immigration, Trump's beating Biden by 14 points. China, Trump's beating Biden by 14 points. And on the issue of Israel, Trump's beating Biden by 8 points. So generally speaking, a bad group of polling data for Joe Biden on the particular issues that are hotspots for the election. So taking a look at this, when we factor in this polling data, we do see that Trump will win the 2024 election by a relatively large margin. He will end up winning almost every swing state which he lost in the 2024 election by under 3%. He will win all the states that he lost by under 3%. And with that being said, we have former President Trump at 312 electoral votes and President Biden at 226 electoral votes. Now, guys, like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. We are growing at a relatively low rate, so really help out if you're able to subscribe and like the video if you're able to do that. And I will hopefully have a House election prediction coming up relatively soon. And that prediction, due to the fact that I have not actually created a House prediction, I believe in about 1.5 months. So I do want to create a House prediction. A lot of people are talking about the 2024 general election, although I do want to spend some time on the House election, since that is a very important election, obviously, determining whether Mike Johnson will remain as House Speaker, Republicans holding obviously a slim majority after the ousting of George Santos, an even slimmer majority that they have. But we will get into that hopefully in the next video, maybe in the video after that. But hopefully in the next video, we will get into that probably next week or so. But make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video, and that really helps out. And I'll see you in the next video.